Hi, Eileen. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We're just going to take a few moments here so that everyone can come on in the webinar. Thanks for joining us today. All right, I think we can go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Technology Tuesdays. My name is Lydia Nimke, and I'm the adult librarian at the Tippecanoe branch, and I'm very excited to bring you the first part of our two-part series on smartphones for seniors. For the next 2 weeks, we'll be talking exclusively about iPhones, and then the following 2 weeks, we'll be talking about Android phones. Please don't let the name of this program fool you. Although it was created with our elders in mind, it is definitely suitable for any beginner who is new to smartphones and wants to learn more about the basics of using them. So before we get started today, just a little bit of housekeeping. As this is a Zoom webinar, your microphones are muted and your cameras are turned off by default, but please don't hesitate to submit any questions you may have to the Q&A box down below. And I'll pause throughout today's presentation to answer them for you. With us today in the background, we have Beth Gabriel from the East Branch.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be back for some Fall Tech Tuesday sessions. It's fall for me, so I'm claiming it. Let's do it.
Thanks, Beth. So this presentation is also being recorded and will be uploaded to the Milwaukee Public Library's YouTube channel. So there's no need to take any really extensive notes. I'll be sending out a link to the recording along with a handout outlining some of the concepts we discussed today to everyone who registered for this webinar. And you can expect to receive that from me by the end of this week. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the main concepts we'll be covering in week 1 of our iPhone section. It's going to be centered around what I consider the absolute basics. And I say this because I feel like a lot of the time when folks tell you they're going to show you the basics of how to use your phone, they end up showing you a bunch of stuff that's not actually fundamental. So you might be able to download an app or use Google Maps, but you still aren't quite sure how to turn your phone's ringer on and off for when you go to the theater, or how to restart your phone when it freezes or something like that. So we'll go over what I consider the most fundamental concepts to using your iPhone. Then we'll talk about navigating through the home screens. And finally, we'll talk about 2 of the most necessary functions of any phone, smart or otherwise, and that's making and receiving phone calls and sending text messages. All right. So just for your own knowledge, I do plan to pause after each of these concepts to answer any questions you may have had about the section. So again, if you have any questions, go ahead and put those in the Q&A box and I will answer them after each corresponding section and again at the end. So first things first, we're going to take a tour of the physical hardware aspect of your iPhone. Now, one thing you may have noticed as phones have evolved over the last 10 or so years is that they ended up with fewer and fewer buttons. So if you're coming from a place of knowing that you can use the arrows or the enter button, the OK button, the number pad on your phone and then you switch to a smartphone kind of suddenly, you're going to be like, where are all the buttons? How do I do anything with this little piece of glass in my hand, right? And the buttons you do have may not do the things you're expecting them to do. So let's view this brief video that I have on this slide here. And I'll go over the buttons that are on the iPhone. Before I play it, I will mention that the phone I'm using here is an iPhone 13 Pro Max. So your iPhone may look a little bit different than mine, but it should be pretty similar with the exception of the home button, which I have had plenty of iPhones with a home button, so I will do my best to show you how you would use that as well. All right. So here on the right side of the phone, we have the power button. And that button has a lot of functions. You can wake your phone up, so turn the screen on. You can turn the screen off. You can accept and decline calls. You can activate Siri with this button. And if you use it in conjunction with some of the other buttons, it has a whole host of other functions. But its main use is to turn the screen on and off and to accept and decline calls. On some older iPhone models, this button is at the top. And you see I'm tapping it now, and it is turning the screen on and off. On the left side of the phone, you have the ringer switch. And this puts your phone into silent mode or turns silent mode off. When silent mode is off, your phone will ring when you get a phone call, probably chirp or make some other sort of sound when you have a text message or an email. Any notification can have a sound associated with it. And when you turn silent mode on, your phone will only vibrate. You're not going to get any audible sounds coming out of your phone. Going below that, we have the volume buttons. The top button is the volume up, and the bottom button is for volume down. And you can see turning the volume up and down with those buttons there. Now that point I'm pointing at right now, right here, is where the home button would be approximately if I had one. And that home button would take you to the home screen and enable you to unlock your phone in some cases. Now, another thing that is super important to know when using your smartphone, and this goes for iPhones and Androids, but I'm talking specifically about the Android today, or the iPhone today, apologies. It's important to know how to interact with it. So we've gone over the physical buttons, but most of the functionality in using your iPhone comes from utilizing the touchscreen and the gestures you do to give it the input that you want to. So in this video, we'll see a sampling of some gestures that you'll definitely need to know if you want to be able to use your iPhone. So I start off my list on the screen here with the return to home. And that is essentially just flicking up or swiping up from the bottom of your screen from any app from any window. So as you can see here, there is a very small line at the bottom of the iPhone screen. And if you swipe up, starting from that line, you will return to the home screen. If you had a home button, you could push that home button to do the same thing. Tapping, which you saw me do on the calendar app I was just in, and on this Maps app, is what opens your application. So just touching lightly on the screen, minimal pressure, will open up the corresponding app that you touch. And a tap is really the simplest gesture, the easiest one to get a hold on, just a light touch of the screen. Now, a little beyond that, the double tap is also quite an important gesture. And this allows you to zoom in like I'm doing here. This is really useful for when you're reading text or looking at a picture. In most of the apps you're going to be using, you'll be able to zoom in closer. So if you're reading an article online, you can zoom in so you can maybe read without your glasses, or zoom in on a picture to see something that's in the background. In line with the double tap, we also have the pinch gesture, which allows us to zoom in and zoom out. So when you pinch together, you're going to zoom in. And when you pinch out, you're going to zoom, no, when you pinch out, you're going to zoom out. And when you pinch in, you're going to zoom in. The swipe is another pretty common gesture, and it's just going to move the screen you're looking at or swipe through home screens. It allows you to go up. You can swipe up, down, from side to side. You can scroll. You can think of the swipe as scrolling on your computer. It has a very similar function. And then the last gesture we'll talk about is the press and hold. And that brings up secondary menus that are often very helpful. I have an example of this here. So that secondary menu that just popped up allowed me to do a whole host of other functions that I wouldn't ordinarily be able to do without pressing and holding. So that's a little bit different than a tap, and that it is a little bit more pressure and a little bit longer than your regular tap gesture. So turning on and off your phone is something you may need to do on an occasion. You don't regularly have to turn your phone off when you're not using it or at night or when you're charging it, but it may be something you want to do on occasion. So to turn your phone back on, you're just going to press and hold that power button, like so, and then you'll see the Apple symbol there. And that lets you know that your phone is powering on. Whenever you turn your phone on, you'll have to enter your passcode to unlock it. To turn your phone off on this model of phone, I have to hold the power button and the volume up button at the same time. And then this menu or this screen appears. And from here, I need to slide this button by swiping to power it off. So press and slide. So extended swipe. And if I did this by accident, I could just hit the cancel button and it would, take me back to my regular phone. So just slide like so, or cancel. Now, to put your phone to sleep, you're just turning off the screen essentially. And you just do that by tapping the power button and the screen will darken and go to sleep. You can wake the screen by tapping it like I just did. On most models, and on newer models, you can simply lift your phone and that will wake it as well. But generally, to sleep and to wake your phone, you can use that power button and the home button if you have one. Now, locking your iPhone is pretty much the same as putting your phone to sleep. You'll just tap that power button, but unlocking your phone is a way of entering your password, which allows you to view all of the secure information and data that's stored on your phone. This can also help protect you if your phone is ever stolen or being used by an unauthorized person. Until you unlock your phone, you will have very limited access to information. Now, putting a lock on your phone is usually optional, but I do, encourage people to have it because if your phone is unlocked generally and it gets stolen, people have a chance to use it and see the information you put on your phone. And truly, the different passcode options can be pretty simple if you want them to be. Your passcodes are often set up when you first set up your phone itself. So like while you're in the Verizon store or the Sprint store, wherever you bought your phone from, they might do this step for you or with you rather. And there are a few options to choose from there. And they are passcode, password, Touch ID, and Face ID. So passcode is a multi-digit code that you have to set to unlock your phone. And you can tell how many digits is in your passcode by the number of dots that appear here on the screen. So mine is 4 digits. Similarly, a password is an alphanumeric password that can contain numbers and letters that you can enter, and you will see a number of dots again that indicate the number of characters in your password. Touch ID is only available on the models that have the home button. But if you have one of those, you'll just hold your finger onto that home button and it will scan it and unlock your phone for you. And you can always add multiple fingers. I think last time I had one, you could add up to 5 fingers. So, both thumbs, both pointer fingers and one other finger. So you are never like completely stuck with depending on just one finger unless you want to be. And then there is Face ID. So if you were using the Touch ID, you just, lay your thumb over that home button and it would scan it. Last one is Face ID, which I can't really show you in any effective way because you just hold the phone up in front of your face and it scans your face and unlocks your phone for you based on all of your biometric features. And it's important to note with both Touch ID and Face ID, there is a backup passcode or password that you can enter in the event that, you know, it's the middle of winter and your hands are in gloves, or it's the middle of summer and you have on big sunglasses and a sun hat, so your Face ID isn't registering the same. You can still enter a 4-digit code if you prefer to. Those are the general basics for using your iPhone. And I will continue on until I see some questions in the Q&A. All right. So now we're going to talk a little bit about home screens. So the home screen is generally the first thing you'll see after unlocking your phone. And this is where many of your apps and tools are for you to quickly tap to open. Your home screen looks something like this. You'll see your status bar at the very top of the screen, which shows the time, your service or Wi-Fi connection, and your battery level. Down below, you'll see a bunch of icons. And an icon is just a application that is represented by a picture of a sort. You'll see the name underneath the application there, and you can tap on that icon to open the application. The wallpaper is the image behind your mobile application. So this greeny, blacky, yellowy image back there. And this is fully customizable. You'll also see tools for your screen navigation. And these are just really helpful for knowing where you are. These dots towards the bottom of your screen let you know which home screen you're on by bolding the current screen in white. So I'm on my first home screen out of 2, and I can tell that because that little dot is white. And then at the bottom, we have the dock, which contains your frequently used applications. This is customizable. If I wanted music to be here instead of podcasts, I could do that. Or if I wanted, you know, maps here instead of Chrome, I could do that as well. Now, your lock screen, like I mentioned previously, it doesn't have a lot of information on it until you unlock your phone, but it does still provide you with some information, and mostly in the form of notifications. And it does have a few tools that are available to you. So of course, you can see the wallpaper in the background again. You still have access to your status bar up the top. We also see the date and the time. And I can tell my phone is locked here from this little lock symbol. I can also see my now playing. So if you're listening to music or watching a video, you would see play controls for that particular media. And then down at the bottom here, we have the notification center, which is stored a bunch of notifications from apps that I have on my phone. And we can see a little bit of information from them, right? So 1 hour from when I took this picture, there was a price change on a house out in Hartford. And if I wanted to know more about that house out in Hartford, I could tap on that notification, but then I would have to unlock my phone before Flex MLS would open and show me, the page for the house and whatnot. Same deal with this text I got about my holds ready for pickup at the library. I can see, some information from the text, but I couldn't reply to it or do anything with the text until I tap on that notification right there. And then I will have to unlock my phone and be taken into the Messages app. And finally, down at the bottom here, we have quick access for some of the things that you may need to access the quickest, which are the flashlight and the camera. And these are accessed just by a press and hold. Press and hold on the flashlight, press and hold on the camera, and you'll be taken instantly into those apps without unlocking your phone. But if you want to do anything else on your phone besides take a picture, you have to unlock it then. Awesome. So there are a few other screens you're able to access from the home screen. If you swipe from left to right, past your main or first home screen, you'll be able to see the widget screen, which often has things like weather, your device battery level, some featured photos, a snapshot of your calendar, news stories. And then if you swipe from right to left past your last home screen, you'll see the app library. And this is where any app that is not on your home screen will be located. And you can, of course, use this search bar right here up at the top to search for an app there as well. You have other options for searching for apps and settings on the iPhone. If you swipe downward in the middle of your home screen, you'll be able to search for any app or setting on your phone. And if there is no like one-to-one match for an app or a setting you're trying to find, it will lead you into an internet search in your default browser. So one thing I do want to point out is the ability to find your settings on the iPhone, right? It's very important to get some of those customizable things set up for yourself. So if you want to have a picture of your grandkids as your lock screen instead of whatever random Apple wibbly image they have put there for you, you can totally do that as long as you know how to access your settings and search to find wallpapers, right? So the easiest way to find settings, because they may end up in a bunch of different places, is to use the search function by swiping downward in the middle of your home screen and searching for settings. Sometimes it pops up in the series suggestions and the app looks just like that. You may want to change your ringtone for a certain person or what have you. That's where you'll be able to do all of that stuff. Your quick settings are a selection of settings that you may need frequently. And here's a short video about how you can access them. To get to the quick settings, you pretty much swipe down from the upper right corner of your screen. And you can do this when the phone is locked or unlocked. Swipe down from the upper right-hand corner, and you will see things like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth tools for connecting your Bluetooth keyboards, your Bluetooth headphones, all that good stuff for connecting to Wi-Fi at home, at work, out and about, at the library. And all of these tools here feature a secondary menu. So if you press and hold on any of these little boxes you see, and I do come closer to the camera in a second, you'll be able to see even more options than are available to you. You have now playing, you have the ability to adjust your phone's brightness, which sometimes you may need to do in a hurry. I know when I am, switching from being in the library, say, to walking outside on my walk, my phone is usually way too dim and it takes a few minutes to catch up, but I can just manually go in there and do that myself. You can adjust the sound, the volume. There's also another way to access your flashlight. And again, with that secondary menu, if you press and hold on that flashlight, you will have the ability to change the brightness of the flashlight itself. Have your timer, your calculator, another way to access your camera. And from there, you can just take a quick picture of a black pen. You have access to things like your Apple Wallet, your battery life, screen recording, and alarms, and so on. And the best part about the quick settings is that it is customizable. So if you find yourself using a specific tool a lot, you can make sure it's there for you to use. If you have, if you're setting timers while you're cooking all the time, you can make sure your timer app is right there in your quick settings at the very top. Or if you are constantly using your phone calculator, you can make sure that is readily accessible to you. All right, we're gonna move on to making and receiving calls. Just want to remind everyone that if you have any questions about what I'm saying, feel free to put that in the Q&A and we will get right into it whenever you have those questions. So one of the main uses for your phone is making phone calls, and this is generally done through the phone application. To make a call, you're gonna open that phone application and it's a green button that looks like it has a telephone receiver on it. You'll click on that and you'll notice a couple of different options near the bottom of your screen. So down here, there are favorites, which you can add people into who are in your contacts. This is more or less like a speed dial list. There are recents, which show your incoming and outgoing call log. There are contacts, which we are looking at right now in this screenshot, which is essentially an address book of different people whose names and phone numbers you want to have. You can also add in additional information to their contact, just like you would with a physical address book, like their birthday, their email address, their employer, their home address, things of that nature. Then there's the keypad, which is what you'll use if you ever have to dial out a phone number. So that just brings up a, typical keypad with numbers on it that you can use to dial any phone number. And finally, there's your voicemail, which you can click on to listen to any voicemails or to update your voicemail box message. So there are 3 general ways to make a call from your iPhone. Once you're in the phone app, you can view your recent call log and select a number from there. So this is very useful if your phone was in the other room and you hear it go off, but you're in the middle of doing something, so you don't go get it, and then you want to return the call to the person who just gave you a call. You can find their number in the recent call log. You can search through your contacts by using the search button up here and click here and enter the name of the person you want to call. So if I wanted to search for someone, I could click up at the top here and search for Akusua. Of course, Akusua is right at the top, so I don't really have to search for her. I could just click her name and from there, click to call her phone number. And then finally, you can still use the keypad to dial the number you want to call. There are two basic actions you can take in response to receiving a call, and they are accepting the call by sliding that green phone icon to answer it. So this is another slide function. Slide it over while holding that green phone down. Or you can decline the call by pushing the power button. Further, you can tap message to send a preset text message to the person without picking up. These are usually some iteration of like, I'm busy, I'll give you a call back when I can, something like that. You can also customize these to make them specific to you. You know, I'm in a meeting, I'll be able to call you back in about an hour, something along those lines. Or you can email me at this number, or if this is really important, call me again, something like that. You can also tap Remind Me to have your iPhone set a reminder to return the call later on in the day, which is a very nice function. If you are actively using your phone when you receive a call, you may see images like the ones below. You may see a small banner along the top of your screen, or a screen like this one, which is a little different than the one I showed you earlier, only slightly. The same basic actions we talked about on the previous slide still apply though. Either tap the green accept button or the red decline button. If you see this banner and you want to send them a message or set yourself a reminder to return the call, you'll have to swipe down on that banner. So from here, swipe down to see the full screen that allows you to send a message or set a reminder. To quickly silence an incoming call, sometimes you're just in the middle of the most quiet places and you get like a loud phone call out of nowhere that you're not expecting. To quickly silence an incoming call, you can push the power button on your phone to send the call straight to voicemail, push the power button a second time, and that'll stop it from even vibrating. So the first push stops the ringer from going off, so the ringtone from making noise. And the second push will send it straight to voicemail. When you're on an active call, you'll have a selection of tools that are available to you that will appear on your call in progress screen. And that looks something like this. You have your mute option, which mutes or silences your microphone so the caller will not be able to hear what you're saying, even though you will still be able to hear them. When it's active, the mute button turns white. Just tap it again to unmute yourself. The keypad brings the keypad, which displays the numbers during your call. It brings it up. This is really useful and really the only way to get through those customer service lines. You're gonna have to press 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on to get through to, get to the customer service person you need to get through, especially if you're not me and you don't just hit 0. So you'll need to know how to access that when you're on a phone call. The speaker button is here. This is really the audio button, which shows you how you are listening to the phone call. When I took this screenshot, I was using earbuds. So that is why that icon is like that. Usually if you have no earbuds around you, it's the speakerphone button. And you can always change that by pressing and holding on that to see the other options. When it's active, again, it's white, and you can tap on that to put it to regular phone audio, where the speaker is at the top and the microphone is at the bottom of your phone. Or you can change it to speakerphone, so you can just hold the phone and not have to hold it up to your ear. Add call displays contacts, so you can add a caller to a three-way or conference call. FaceTime begins a video call with someone who has at least an iPhone 4 or newer. And then contacts displays a list of your contacts, which is especially helpful if you have to give the name and number of someone to a person you're speaking with. Cool beans. Now we are going to move on to our last concept for the day. And we're going to talk about sending text messages. Text messages are generally short text-based messages that are delivered nearly instantly to the recipient. And sending text messages, or simply just texts, GIFs, emojis, and photos can also be sent with ease. Now, for this concept, the video is at the end. So if you have questions throughout, it's just a lot of step-by-steps. I'd be happy to answer them. And so to send a text, you're just gonna open the Messages app from the home screen. By default, it is in the dock at the bottom, but if you've moved your apps around, it might not be there anymore. Tap the New Messages button, which looks like a piece of paper with a pencil writing on it in the upper right-hand corner. From there, a form will appear and you can begin to address your message in several ways. You can begin to type a name in the To field, and a list of matching contacts will apply. It will appear. You can also tap the plus on the right side to see a full list of your contacts. And if the recipient isn't a contact, you can always just type their phone number into the To field. To write a text, you'll tap on the bottom message field near the bottom of your screen and type your message. And then you'll send the message by pressing this send button, which looks like a blue arrow pointing up on the right edge of the message field. Now, if you want to send a text to more than one person, you can absolutely do that just by adding in more contacts or more phone numbers to step 3. Right? So I could send a message to my sisters, my husband, and my mom all at once. And this is called a group text, just by addressing it to all of them. To read a text is truly very simple. You just open the Messages app and scroll to find the conversation you're looking for. You'll tap a conversation to see the text thread and respond by using the steps outlined previously. You can scroll through the conversation itself pretty far back, and you'll be able to see all the attachments, any photos that have been sent. Like I said, going very far back. To delete text messages, you are going to want to be in the Messages app and locate the conversation you want to delete by just scrolling through those conversations. Swipe to the left on that conversation and 2 buttons will appear. You can tap the red trash can that comes up to delete the conversation. All right, now we've made it to the video here at the end. Tap the Messages app And this is more or less what it should look like no matter what iPhone you've got, as long as you keep it updated regularly, which for a variety of reasons is important to do, namely security and, having applications that don't have as many bugs. So right up here is the new text message button. You see how it looks like just a little piece of paper with a pencil on it? That is what you will tap to start a new text message to someone you have not texted before or recently. As you see, as I scroll down, I have a whole bunch of text conversations to send a text in this conversation that already exists. I just tap on that conversation, tap in the message field at the bottom, and then begin composing my text how I normally would. And hit that blue send button. So now we can see that the person I was texting has responded to my question, what are you having for lunch? She says a sandwich and carrots. And I can see that in a banner up at the top of my screen. I can also see at the bottom near my messages app, I have a bubble with a number inside it to let me know that I have one unread text. I can tap on either the banner or the messages app to read this new text. And you'll see as I get closer to the screen here, she texts me again, and that number 1 changes to a 2. So I tap on that and I see her text appear right under the one I just sent to her. And I can go ahead and respond again. We'll learn more about emojis next week. It should be really fun. And again, like I mentioned, you could scroll downward again to see text from the past, from days ago, weeks ago, months ago. I haven't looked super far back for text messages ever, but they do tend to go back a substantial amount of time. So you can always go back and reread something you sent or something that was sent to you. Yeah. We can use the back button when we're in a conversation to get back to the general messages app. And from there, we can scroll down again and see what's going on, what we want to respond to. And again, it's worth exploring what secondary menus you have come up. So I'm swiping to the left to delete this text message I no longer need. And just doing that again by tapping on the red trash can that appears there. And that's really the basics of using your iPhone, gestures, making calls, and sending texts. Are there any final questions before we wrap up for the day?
I don't see any in the Q&A box, so I would think no.
Cool, wonderful. Well, if you find yourself with a question, my email is up on the screen here. You can feel free to reach out to me. This is also the email that the follow-up email and handout will be coming from. I usually aim to get it out to you by Thursday afternoon. That is a goal that is usually obtained, is what I'll say about that. I'd also like to invite and encourage you, if any of you were following along on your iPhone and would really appreciate more communication or some feedback on what you're doing, I'm actually hosting an in-person session of this same presentation, Smartphones for Seniors, iPhones Part 1, the Absolute Basics, at the Tippecanoe branch this coming Thursday at 10 a.m. So if you're available and in the area and want to stop by and have some more two-way communication, I can see what you're doing and, kind of help you along. That is available to you. We'll start off with an hour of lecture, which will be literally the exact same presentation as today. And then the second hour from 11 to noon will be more of a practical practice and Q&A session. So if you have more questions about texting, phone calls, gestures, and things like that, that will be a good follow-up. And next week, we're going to, I just saw a question from Gail. Sorry, Gail, thanks for coming. There will be a link to the recording. Don't worry about that. And I'll send that out on Thursday. Thank you. So next week, we're going to be talking about iPhones again, but we're going to go a little bit beyond the basics. We're going to talk more about downloading apps, sending those text message attachments like emojis and photos and GIFs. And we're going to be talking about going online, so connecting to Wi-Fi and using your iPhone for entertainment purposes. So I hope some of you will join us again for that one. After I close down this webinar, in your browser window, a survey is actually going to pop up, and that's a survey from me and the library, just checking in to see how you felt about today's programming. And if you could give me a few more minutes of your time afterwards, I would really appreciate it. It's only about 7 questions long and it takes a minute or 2 maximum. It just really helps me craft these programs in the future and make them better and of more value to you. If any of you want to learn on your own, I'd highly encourage it. The library has so many wonderful sources. I just happened to use this one because it was the most recent one we had. But the library has so many wonderful books to help you learn how to use your particular device. So I'd highly encourage you to reach out to a librarian and they would be happy to put you in touch with some of those resources. Again, thank you all so much for coming and joining us today and learning more about iPhones. It was lovely to see some familiar names. And I hope to see some of you next week. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a good night.